Yo, what's going on guys, Arekkz here, welcome back to another Division video. It is the weekend, which of course means it is time for the vendor reset video. Apologies, there was not one last weekend. I was over in LA for PSX, so I didn't have a chance to get to the game, but it's back this week, and I'm also going to be taking into account some of the feedback you guys left in the comments last week. A lot of you guys said you still like to see most of the items, but you do still want some slightly more targeted recommendations, so what I'm going to do in this one is still visit all the vendors, but I am going to skip over anything that is not worth your time, so that hopefully this will make it a little bit more condensed. So with that being said, it's not wasting any time. If you guys enjoy this and you find it helpful, a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any questions, but let's get started. So kicking things off in DZO2, this is of course where you go to get your gear pieces. You have a tenacious mask, a robust chest piece, a relentless backpack, prosperous knee pads, a sturdy holster, and a pair of astute gloves. So nothing especially stand out there, so for the time being, skip past that. We're going to see a lot more gear throughout the video because, of course, there are many more vendors to come. DZO3 up next, you have a First Wave X45 with Expert and Brutal. Interesting choice there. Perhaps if you're running a slightly more dedicated shield build, maybe that revolves around sidearms and not necessarily the SMG, you could potentially get some value out of that. But, of course, there are other sidearms available right now. I'm a super big fan of the 9.3R. The Rhino also has some interesting potential because of stagger, so that one's interesting, but by no means a necessity. First Wave Vector 45 ACP with Unforgiving, Fierce and Commanding, not exciting. An enhanced ACRE with Capable, Predatory and Ferocious. Yeah, not too bad, especially if you're going to be using it in like an Alpha Bridge build, because of course a couple of those talents aren't actually too bad. However, it is 256. I hate using 256 weapons in Alpha Bridge builds. It's a lot harder to get something that isn't 256 these days, just because the fact that you can't control the vendors with the world tier, so a little bit mixed that one, not necessarily a high prior grab. Tactical SAS G12 with Adept, Swift and Sustained, nope. SOCOM MK20 SSR with Skilled, Swift and Commanding. As a recap, this is one of the SCAR-H models, so this as a model is interesting, but this particular one, not very much. So it does have Skilled. I always kind of like rave about Skilled, but I've spoken about it so much recently that I'm pretty sure you guys are very much aware now, and also I prefer Skilled to be in the free slot so I don't actually have to spec into electronics. And you also have an Infantry MG5 with Adept, Brutal and Talented. Brutal is nice, interesting combination. You need to roll out a couple of those. But there is another MG5 on sale at another vendor later on today. So for the time being, skip over that one. DZO4 up next, nothing especially exciting here. You have a prototype stamina mod with exotic damage resilience. Truth be told, we tend to try and go for mods with armor or health, or things that are a little bit more targeted, so this is definitely not a good choice. And a prototype performance mod. These ones, of course, heavily depend on your build. So if you run support station, cool. If you don't, then completely ignore it. DZO5, you've got a few options here. You have a quick release magazine with reload speed, mag size, and rate of fire. Not that interesting. An Osprey 45 suppressor FD with accuracy, stability, crit hit damage, and reduced threat. Handstop Coyote with reload speed, accuracy, and stability, and improved iron sights with stability, headshot damage, and critical hit damage. Then finally, for Inside the Dark Zone, DZO6, this is where you go to get your gear set pieces. A lot of Deadeye stuff this time around. Deadeye isn't actually that exciting right now. It's not necessarily one of the go-to sets, but you have a Deadeye mask with crit hit chance and burn resistance, a Deadeye chest piece with exotic damage resilience, armor, and ammo capacity. Were you running this, that's quite nice because, of course, it has a baked-in armor roll. So you could, of course, roll out that exotic damage resilience for something else, and it wouldn't be too bad. You then have a Deadeye go bag, Striker knee pads, a Striker holster, and Reclaimer gloves. Then moving over to the base of operations, Dark Zone gear vendor. I'm going to be a little bit more targeted going forward because these vendors have a lot of things. So the enhanced ACRE here, not that great. Dominant, ferocious, destructive. A couple of nice options there, but it's not necessarily the best model. So going to skip over that one. And for the rest of the items here, Operator Mask, Prototype Performance Mod, and Small Audio Scope. Nothing that exciting. Then speaking to the advanced weaponry vendor, this guy skipping past, of course, the usual name stuff. You have a First Wave X45 with Expert and Accurate. An enhanced AUG A3P with Determined, Capable and Hurried. An enhanced ACRE, again, Deadly, Prepared and Fierce. Not too bad, the talent's on there, but again, it's not necessarily a model I'm especially a fan of. If you could find a way to make this work in Alpha Bridge, you could of course run with it. Maybe roll up Prepared, because while you can use assault rifles at appropriate ranges, I wouldn't necessarily pick that one as a go-to on this weapon, but, you know, again, a little bit of a stretch for this one, so double barrel sawn-off shotgun, not even going to worry about that one. Then moving over to the military SCAR-H, this one is actually a pretty nice weapon. This is one you might want to consider. I said before, the SCAR-H models are the highest damage PvE marksman rifles, so that includes the SCAR-H, the Police MK17, and the SOCOM 20 SSR, or whatever it's called. Basically, those ones are the highest damage marksman rifles for PvE, so if you're doing PvE content, then do consider this one. This one actually has Deadly, Destructive, and Prepared. quite a nice set of talents. Destructive, of course, because if you're in PvE especially, then armor damage is very nice. Deadly is a nice skill anyway. And Prepared, you'll actually get value out of it on this weapon because, of course, your general engagement range for a marksman rifle is going to be over 30 meters away from the target. But at the same time, if you didn't want Prepared, then you have this in the free slot. So you could roll it out for something more like Brutal or something a little bit more headshot focused, and you would then still have that completely free. So there are actually a lot of good options in this one, and I would probably recommend picking this up if you guys use marksman rifles because you can get some decent mileage out of this. As for your tactical, M249 Para, Fierce, Predatory, and Capable. Again, not too bad actually, because Fierce and Predatory are actually quite nice on LMGs, and Capable you could then roll out for something else. But the M249 is not necessarily the best model. I tend to lean more towards the M60 or the MG5, which we'll see a little bit later. And then super quickly, High Velocity Magazine, Crit Hit Chance, Magazine Size, Rate of Fire, Muzzle Brake, Stability, Accuracy, and Headshot Damage, PQ-15 Laser, Accuracy, Crit Hit Damage, and Optimal Range, and a 5.52 Hollow Sight as well. Then speaking to these guys in the main room here, we have a Burstfire MP5 with Predatory, Deadly, and Unforgiving, as well as a 5.52 Hollow Sight, nothing that exciting there. So moving over to the gear vendor, you have a pair of Savage Gloves with Pistol Damage, Assault Rifle Damage, and Critical Hit Chance. Not as nice as the pair of Savage Gloves that were available in one of the Dark Zone checkpoints last week. But if you're in desperate need of a pair of Savage Gloves, then they're on sale here. These do also have an electronics roll, which is a little bit unfortunate because if you're going to roll that into something more like firearms or health, then of course you're not free to mess around with the attributes, so leaving you with pistol damage is a bit of a waste. So not the best gloves, but there are Savage Gloves on sale. Then dropping down to the special equipment vendor down in the terminal, skipping past the usual name weapons, you have a snub-nosed Rhino, one of the new sidearms with Expert and Proficient, not that exciting. Next up you have an enhanced PP19 with Dominant, Skilled, and Hurried. I like the fact that it's got Hurried and Skilled because you could then roll out Dominant and make it relatively good. But what I don't like is the fact that Skilled is in the second slot. The electronics requirement is actually pretty high, so generally speaking, I would probably skip over this one. As much as I want to like it, it's just going to be a little bit of a pain to spec towards. If you're, electronics focused, then again, maybe you can get some mileage out of this one, but it is not by any means the best option. Military SA-58 with Deadly, Unforgiving, and Determined. It's a gun that I do really like, but it's not necessarily one of the top ones, and the talents this time round aren't that great. Unforgiving is alright at best, and Determined is of course the one you would roll out, but in this situation, given your other available options for ARs, things like G36, FAMAS, and LVOAC, then you can skip over this as well. Tactical Super 90 SBS, Sustained, Deadly, and Commanding, SRS-A1 with Destructive, Adept, and Accurate, and an MG5. This one is quite interesting actually. You have Accurate, Prepared, and Deadly, so Deadly in the free slot, quite nice. Prepared, I think to be honest, I'd rather have a close range talent on this one because I typically use my LMGs a little bit closer than the kind of 30 meter distance. So while you can get away with using them there, it's not necessarily the best option. So you could roll out one of those two talents and make it not too bad. MG5 is a strong model for LMG, so if you haven't got one, maybe consider it, but just note that it's definitely by no means the best roll. And as for your gear, I'm going to skip over all of this for now because this is entirely down to you. You guys can look through them and decide whether there's anything here of value for you, and then of course go from there. But skipping right down to the bottom, Stamina mod, this one here gives you health, and a performance mod for pulse duration. And as for your mods, quick release magazine, Osprey 45 suppressor, hand stop, foliage green, and an ACOG scope ×4. As for the underground, don't even need to go there now. The guy only sells caches, so if you guys want to spend some credits on caches, then by all means do so, but he has no gear for sale. So now turning our attention to the safe houses, doing the usual kind of counterclockwise run, starting right in the top left hand corner at Autumn's Hope. This guy, not especially exciting, a nimble Spec Ops holster and a firearms mod, so I'm not going to focus on sticking around here too long. This one is one you can kind of skip over. Wolves Den is your next safe house. This guy's selling a custom L86A2 with Prepared, Capable, and Swift. Not the greatest model, not the greatest talent, so again, skip past there. And a vertical grip Wolf Grey with optimal range, accuracy, and crit hit damage. Moving down to Dante's Run. Here you have a Steadfast holster, also not that exciting, and a Prototype Performance mod with Pulse critical hit damage. So again, if you use Pulse, then consider it. If not, then you can move swiftly over to the Cavern. Here you can also find another holster. It's like Holster Week this time round, and a First Aid Self-Heal mod. So again, nothing that great. Kerman Station up next. Here you have a custom PF45 with Expert and Predatory, as well as a quick release magazine, reload speed, crit hit chance, and critical hit damage. It's really not that exciting this week. It's not been too good so far. Moving down from there to Camp Hudson. Here you have an M870 Express with Commanding, Capable, and Ferocious. as well as another quick release magazine, this time reload speed, crit hit damage, and rate of fire. Moving over to the right, this time stopping at the meat locker. Here you can grab a double barrel sawn-off shotgun, determined, brutal, and responsive, as well as a heavy magazine spring, reload speed, crit hit chance, and rate of fire again. Madison stand is up next, and here you have a vigorous chest piece, as well as a prototype performance mod for ballistic shield damage resilience. So if you guys are running shield builds, perhaps consider that one. After that, moving down to the last cool safe house. Here you have a paratrooper SVD with swift, skilled, and disciplined. Not the greatest set of talents, but again a reminder that if you guys play PvP, then the SVD is still your highest damage marksman rifle. And as for your Osprey 45 suppressor FDE, accuracy, crit hit damage, critical hit chance, and reduced threat. Then over to the ward. Here you have an operator mask with Tenacious on, as well as a performance mod, this time for sticky bomb explosion radius. As for your Southpaw safe house, here you have a technical backpack as well as a performance mod, this time around for Seeker Mine damage. The Grindhouse further up north has a tactical M1911 with expert and destructive, as well as a small RDS scope, stability, crit hit damage, and optimal range. Almost there for the safe houses. Next up, Firewall. This time round with a relentless backpack and also a stamina mod with armor on it. So that one's actually pretty good. Finally, something worth talking about. If you guys are going for a slightly more tanky build, then generally speaking, as we know, armor is best in slot on pretty much everything. So if you can have armor on your mods and armor on your gear, you're going to be in a very good position. So stamina mods, definitely a good thing to grab. In fact, I might grab a couple myself. And then finally moving up to the Crypt. Here you have a classic M44 carbine, capable, vicious, and adept, as well as an extended magazine size, crit hit damage, and reload speed. So with that out of the way, now let's turn our attention to the Dark Zone checkpoints, again starting in the top right hand corner at East 53rd Street and working clockwise. Here you have a police UMP45, so of course one of the new weapons. This one has responsive, meticulous, and ambusher, the new talent that increases your damage by 10% to targets that are in cover. This one, talent-wise, not especially great. Responsive is nice, and of course ambusher, you can get some use out of it. If you were going to use this, you would roll up meticulous for something else, but of course if you want a new weapon, that is there. And as for the rest of the stuff, really not that exciting. So moving down to East 46th Street. This vendor, not especially inspiring. They're really trying to push the double barrel sawn-off shotgun this week, aren't they? Predatory, determined, and deadly. And as for the other ones, again, not that good. So moving down to East 42nd Street. Here you have a black market M60E6 with accurate, adept, and dominant. Not the nicest set of talents, but it is a nice model of weapon. So just something to remember for the future. Operator holster, prototype performance mod with smart cover damage and flash hider. So again, moving swiftly on to the checkpoint at East 40th Street. Here you have a Vector 45 ACP with brutal, meticulous, and sustained, as well as a Spec Ops mask with tenacious, stamina mod for health, and a small grip. Moving down to East 34th Street. Here you have a lightweight M4 with destructive, prepared, and adept, a tactical vest with robust on, performance mod for support station range, and a CQBS scope. Then moving on from there to East 31st Street. Here you can grab a Scar L with responsive, determined, and ferocious, Spec Ops holster with recovered, stamina mod with skill power, and a T-Rant suppressor. Then dropping down the middle at 5th Avenue, your options are a military M870 with commanding, responsive, and swift, tactical gloves with decisive on, prototype electronics mod with skill haste, and a small laser pointer. Then moving over to West 31st Street. Here you can grab a classic M60 with meticulous, capable, and skilled. Skilled is in the free slot, so at least that is pretty nice. Because if you were to roll out something like capable, then this wouldn't be too bad. Meticulous, you can get some value out of it. You don't need it, not by a long shot, especially not on an LMG with a massive magazine. But rolling out capable and having sort of a 2 out of 3 wouldn't be too bad at a stretch. Spec Ops knee pads, prototype performance mod, and a compensator. Moving up to West 34th Street. This vendor has a black market AK-74 with fierce, vicious, and prepared. Gunslinger holster with sturdy, performance mod with Seeker Mine explosion radius, and a heavy magazine spring. North from there to West 39th Street. Your options here are an M249B with vicious, capable, and commanding. Spec Ops pack with inventive on, prototype performance mod with first aid, ally heal, and a SR7 suppressor. Then up to West 42nd Street. Your options include a Super 90 with brutal, fierce, and accurate, an operator mask with refreshed, a stamina mod that has skill haste on it, and an EXPS3 holographic sight with optimal range, headshot damage, and stability. As for West 46th Street, you have an enhanced AUG A3P, determined, capable, and unforgiving. Spec Ops gloves with cunning, prototype electronics mod with exotic damage resilience, and a reflex sight. And then finally up to West 53rd Street. Your final options here are a tactical ACR with predatory, fierce, and talented, Tactical gloves with Savage on. This time they at least have health on kill, SMG damage, and pistol damage. Still not as great as the ones we saw last week, but they are better than the ones that are in the base operations because, of course, they don't just lean on pistol damage. These ones also have a stamina roll, so at least slightly more useful than your other offerings. Plus a firearms mod with armor on, so again, nice option, and a PQ-15 laser red. So, there you have it. Truth be told, not a very good week, especially compared to some of the ones we've had recently. Your main recommendations from this week would be the S-ATAIII that I spoke about, and basically a couple of the mods that have armor on. Besides that, most of the weapons are either not the greatest models or just don't have especially exciting talents. So, generally speaking, there isn't a great deal of stuff you have to pick up this week, so I would just kind of go back to farming, doing your stuff, and probably wait till next week. So, for the time being, thank you for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully you found it helpful. Again, if you did, a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below if you have any questions, and I'll catch you guys next time.